They don't choose you because you're nice. They choose you because you're rare. If you've ever felt like an option, not the first call, not the man who changes her heartbeat, you're not alone. Most men are living life like a background character, present, useful, disposable. You've been giving love, effort, loyalty, and still being treated like a temporary placeholder. But there's a reason why some men are irreplaceable, while others are nothing more than convenience. And it starts with this truth: you're either a luxury or you're just another item in her emotional clearance sale. Comment below, "I'm the prize." You've felt the sting of being overlooked, undervalued, and quietly replaced. That ends very soon. Because I'm building the most powerful guide ever created for men. It's called the Stoic Relationship Blueprint. It's not just an ebook. It's your weapon against manipulation, disrespect, and invisibility in today's relationships. Men today are drowning in emotional confusion, cheap dopamine, and false advice. We're told to open up, but punished when we do. Told to be providers, but discarded when someone more exciting shows up. And if you don't own this blueprint when it drops, you'll keep repeating the same painful cycles, being good enough but never chosen. Here are the 9 keys to being the luxury and not just an option. Number 1, value your time like it's gold. They only start to value your time when they realize they can't buy it. Most men give away their time like they're giving out free samples, always accessible, always on standby, like their value is in being convenient. But the truth is, a man who is always reachable is never truly desired. The men who command respect, from women, from peers, from life itself, are men who move with gravity. They know that time is their most sacred currency. Imagine walking into a luxury store. Everything is displayed with care, behind glass, with security. You feel the presence of value, the weight of exclusivity. Now compare that to the bargain bin at a flea market. Loud, desperate, accessible to everyone, yet treasured by no one. You are either one or the other. You can't be both. Men need to understand. When you treat your time like a sacred appointment, others do too. If you're dropping everything to respond to texts, to jump into unplanned hangouts, to explain yourself every time you're late by a minute, you're not being polite. You're being disposable. The rarest men are scarce with their hours. They don't spend time, they invest it. And they invest it only where the returns are real. Spend time mastering skills that increase your power, not numbing your frustration. Spend time reflecting in solitude, not begging for validation. Ask yourself, if your schedule was displayed publicly, would it reflect the life you're proud of? Or would it show how much of it you've surrendered to obligations that earn you nothing but resentment and burnout? The men who live by Stoic discipline understand this truth, that each moment wasted on distraction is a moment stolen from your legacy. You can't lead a life of significance if you're treating your calendar like a playground. Begin today. Cancel obligations that drain you, say no to people who don't respect your grind, and keep your focus locked on what builds you. Every minute is a vote for the man you're becoming. Make each one count. Number 2, set boundaries without guilt. Weak boundaries are the breeding ground of resentment. You feel it every time someone crosses the line, not because they're evil, but because you never drew the line in the first place, and then you feel guilty when you try to push them back. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. There's no honor in being a man who says yes to everyone but himself. The world will test your limits. Women will test your limits. And if you don't enforce them, they will assume you have none. Imagine your life as a fortress. Every time you allow someone to step in without credentials, they plant expectations. And expectations, left unchallenged, become obligations. You must choose discomfort over disrespect. Every time you say yes, When your gut screams no, you're abandoning yourself. And here's the truth. People don't get angry because you set boundaries. They get angry because they can no longer use you. The strongest men in history were feared not because they were cruel, but because their principles were untouchable. Say it out loud. I don't owe my time to anyone who disrespects my standards. And when someone challenges your line, hold it. When someone tests your rule, enforce it. When someone calls you difficult, say thank you. A man without boundaries is a man who eventually loses everything: his energy, his self-respect, his woman. Because even the people who love you will begin to chip away at your essence if they believe you'll never stand up for it. This doesn't mean being cold. This doesn't mean being selfish. It means you understand your worth so clearly that any form of disrespect, no matter how subtle, cannot pass. It means you only allow what uplifts you and you reject what depletes you. And that refusal, that's power. Not loud, not cruel, just firm, like steel under velvet. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone who's not willing to respect your no. Boundaries aren't for keeping people out. They're for protecting the parts of you that no one has the right to ruin. Number 3, be consistent in your actions. Your word means nothing if your actions contradict it. The rarest men, the ones considered irreplaceable, they don't just say what they believe, they live it. Consistency is the quiet engine of power. It's not flashy, it doesn't trend, but it commands trust, and trust is what makes people bet their lives on you. Most men start strong, gym for a week, respectful for a month, hard-working for a season, but then the pressure comes, and they fold. The Stoic warrior doesn't rise to the level of motivation, he rises to the level of his discipline. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you did what you said, every time? If you told her you respected her, and then followed that up by respecting your own goals and time? If you told your boss you were dependable, and then showed up early every single day, even when no one was watching? That's the kind of man who builds unshakable reputation, not because he's loud, but because his reliability becomes legend. The kind of man women brag about. The kind of man who walks into a room and needs no introduction. But it's not just about impressing others, it's about training your soul. When you live in conflict with your own promises, your spirit fractures. You start distrusting yourself, and that's the beginning of internal collapse. But when your actions mirror your words, you build a bond with yourself that nothing can break. You become dangerous, not because of aggression, but because of reliability. In a world full of unpredictable boys, be the man whose presence calms storms, because everyone knows, when you say it, you mean it. When you promise it, you deliver. When you show up, you do it fully. That is consistency. That is trust. That is how legends are built, not in noise, but in repetition, in precision, in discipline that never wavers, no matter the weather. Number 4, speak with calm and certainty. Power doesn't shout, it whispers and still gets heard. The most dangerous men in any room aren't the loudest, the fastest talkers, or the ones who overwhelm others with noise. They are the ones who speak less, think deeply, and when they do speak, every word lands like a strike of iron. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. Calm is the storm you train to ride without flinching. The reason most men are ignored is because they speak like they're asking for permission, not declaring truth. Listen to yourself. Do you raise your tone at the end of every sentence like you're unsure? Do you overuse qualifiers like I think, maybe, or I guess? Do you flood your points with filler just to avoid a pause? If you do, understand this. People don't follow uncertainty. Women don't admire it. Leaders don't respect it. The man who speaks with certainty commands subconscious obedience. Not because of arrogance, not because he knows everything, but because he knows who he is, and that's enough. You don't need to explain your every decision. You don't need to convince everyone in the room. You need to ground yourself in truth. Before you speak, ask yourself, does this align with my values? If it does, say it. Say it once. Say it clearly. Then stop. Let the weight of your words work in silence. Your calmness in chaos tells others that you've been here before, that you don't flinch under pressure, that your confidence isn't dependent on their approval. Imagine walking into a heated negotiation. Everyone's raising their voice. Emotions run high. And you sit back, composed, observing. You wait. And when you finally speak, your voice cuts through the noise, not because of volume, but because of presence. That's a man who's unshakable. That's a man they respect. And that kind of calm, it's trained, it's practiced. It comes from facing pain without flinching, from holding your values when the world tempts you to fold. Speak slower, pause longer, eliminate fluff. Know the weight of your words before you release them. It is not the quantity of your speech, but the clarity of it that leaves impact. A single sentence said with conviction will outlast 1,000 words spoken in anxiety. Control your tongue. It's the first sign you control your life. And when a man commands his voice, he commands the room, the negotiation, the relationship, the outcome. Because the world bends to the man who needs no validation to speak his truth. Number 5, stop explaining yourself too much. You don't owe people a tour of your soul just because they asked for directions. The men who explain everything, who always rush to justify why they didn't text back in 3 minutes, why they made that decision, why they changed plans, they're trying to buy respect with overexposure. But here's the reality. Respect never comes from over-clarification. It comes from mystery, from decisiveness, from a man who moves and lets his actions do the talking. Constantly explaining yourself signals doubt, and doubt repels power. You were not born to beg for understanding from people who don't value clarity. Have you ever watched a man who simply says, "That doesn't work for me," and leaves it there? No flinching, no rambling, just certainty. That's power. That's confidence. And most importantly, that's trust in self. When you explain too much, you're not reassuring others. You're betraying yourself. You're saying, "I don't believe I have the right to move unless you agree." Let that sink in and understand this. Your life is not a courtroom. You are not on trial every time you make a decision. The people who demand constant explanations from you, they're testing your foundation. And if they see cracks, if they see that you can be guilt-tripped into over-defending yourself, they will never treat you like a rock. They'll treat you like sand. Women admire a man who's certain, not just about decisions, but about the fact that he doesn't need to explain himself every time someone's uncomfortable. Think about that friend who always feels the need to give you a 10-minute monologue on why he's choosing a different restaurant. Or the man who writes paragraphs when a simple "I'm busy today" would suffice. These are habits born from a deep fear of being disliked, misunderstood, rejected. But the irony is, the more you explain, the less they respect you. The more you justify, the less they trust your instincts. You were not made to be understood by everyone. And those who matter don't demand a full spreadsheet of your intentions before they give you respect. Adopt this principle. Say it once, say it clear, and say no more. If they ask again, stay calm and repeat, not expand. That's how boundaries become ironclad. That's how energy stays protected, and that's how your presence begins to speak louder than any justification ever could. Because real strength doesn't explain itself. It just is. Number 6. Don't be always available. There's nothing desirable about a man whose presence costs nothing. The truth is hard, but every man needs to hear it. If you're always around, you're never missed. And what's never missed becomes invisible. The most valuable things in life, rare watches, limited edition masterpieces, elite experiences, are desired not just because they're beautiful or useful, but because they're not everywhere. Their absence creates value. Their inaccessibility creates intrigue. Their rarity commands pursuit. So ask yourself, are you that man whose attention feels earned? Or are you the man whose validation is on tap for anyone who asks? If every woman, every friend, every stranger knows they can reach you instantly, your energy stops being a gift and starts being a given. That kills mystery, that drains polarity, that erases hunger. Think about the most powerful men you know or admire. You never see them always texting, always attending, always reacting. They are busy building something, focused on a mission that's larger than small talk. Their availability is intentional, and when they do show up, people lean in. That's what you want. Not because you're trying to play games, but because your life is so full of purpose, so driven by a mission, that anything not aligned with that gets filtered out without guilt. Be honest. How many times have you said yes just to avoid conflict? How often do you reply instantly just to not be rude? How many times have you dropped what matters just to prove you're there for someone who isn't even invested in you long term? This kind of emotional poverty is what destroys masculine power. You are not obligated to be available. You are not required to explain why you're unavailable. You owe no one your time unless they've earned the right to it. And that bar needs to be high. If you want to be a man who is considered a luxury, you need to stop being predictable. Stop being the fallback. Stop being the guy who's just there. Your attention should be a reward, not a default setting. Limit your responses. Protect your space. Spend your time building something unshakable, a body that radiates strength, a mind that commands strategy, a bank account that reflects vision. Make it clear, your availability is earned, not assumed. And when people ask why you're not around so much anymore, you won't need to answer. Your results will do it for you. Number 7. Work silently on yourself. The men who talk about what they're building rarely build anything. You don't need to post your progress. You don't need to announce every win. You need to fall in love with the grind that happens when no one claps for you. Because true power isn't displayed, it's developed. Every hour you spend reading instead of scrolling, training instead of talking, meditating instead of explaining, that's where the elite are made. In private, in darkness, in the invisible hours when the world is sleeping. The man who works silently on himself becomes the man no one sees coming, and that's the most dangerous kind. Picture this. 2 men walk into a room. One is loud, explaining his hustle, flashing his plans, always needing approval. The other says nothing. He observes, he listens. He moves like a man who knows something the world hasn't figured out yet. And when he speaks, everyone listens, not because of volume, but because of gravity. That gravity is earned in the unseen hours. The world rewards men who are undeniable. And becoming undeniable doesn't require a crowd. It requires obsession. It requires sacrifice. It requires saying no to temporary pleasures so you can say yes to a future that scares even you. What if you stopped trying to be seen and started trying to be so excellent they couldn't ignore you? What if you let your work be your voice? What if you outgrew every version of yourself that needed attention to feel valuable? That's the blueprint. You build in secret. You win in public. But the public part isn't the point. It's just the byproduct. You should be so focused on becoming dangerous, becoming clear, becoming powerful, that when they finally ask what you've been up to, all you need to do is show up. Not explain, just exist. And the difference will be undeniable, not just in how you look, but in how you move, how you breathe, how you make people feel. A man who has labored in silence carries a presence you can't fake. So stop announcing your growth. Live it. Let your results be loud, even when your mouth is quiet. This is how you go from average to asset, from optional to essential, by becoming a man whose progress doesn't need permission, proof, or praise. It just is. Number 8. Let your presence speak for you. When you walk into a room, what does your presence say about you before you speak a single word? This isn't about fashion. It's not about muscles. It's about aura, that rare, unmistakable energy that announces your worth before your mouth ever moves. Most men walk in hoping to be liked, but the man who is considered a luxury carries a presence that makes others adjust themselves, straighten their back, choose their words more carefully, become more aware. That isn't built by pretending to be someone you're not. It's built by becoming so internally aligned, so deeply grounded, that you radiate confidence, not in noise, but in certainty. Think about the last time you were around someone who didn't try to dominate attention, but somehow controlled the atmosphere. They didn't interrupt, but they were never overlooked. They didn't sell themselves, but everyone leaned in. That's not luck. That's what happens when a man lives with congruence, when his actions, his values, and his energy are in total alignment. Women don't remember the loudest guy in the room. They remember the one who felt untouchable, not because he was trying to be, but because his self-respect was unmistakable. Your presence is your signature, and you don't craft that by being loud or opinionated or overly visible. You craft that by becoming the kind of man who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. You do it by mastering your posture, standing tall not to impress, but because you refuse to shrink. You do it by maintaining eye contact not to intimidate, but to connect without flinching. You do it by speaking less, but meaning more. And most of all, you do it by living with integrity in the small moments no one sees, because those moments shape how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself is what the world feels when you enter the room. So if your presence feels forgettable, if people overlook you, if women ignore your effort and peers overlook your contributions, look inward, audit your values, align your behavior, build strength in private, so when you appear in public, you carry the quiet authority of someone who no longer chases validation. You want to be remembered. Be the man who moves with clarity, walks with direction, listens more than he speaks, and never needs to chase, because his presence does the talking. Number 9, raise your standards ruthlessly. The man who accepts everything ends up with nothing that matters. Your standards are not about arrogance, they are about alignment. If you don't demand more from yourself, you'll accept less from everyone else. And when that happens, you start shrinking. You start tolerating friends who waste your time, women who drain your peace, and habits that weaken your edge. Your standards shape your life, your circle, your energy, your future. So look around. Who are you allowing into your world right now that doesn't belong? What behaviors have you normalized that are keeping you stuck? What excuses have you allowed that would make your younger self ashamed? Raising your standards isn't about pushing others away. It's about elevating your environment until only the right people, the right habits, and the right energy can survive in it. The man who is considered a luxury lives by ruthless standards for his health, his time, his mind, his values. He doesn't tolerate mediocrity because he knows that what he allows in his space is what he becomes. Raise your standards in how people speak to you. If someone talks down to you, dismisses your time, or belittles your effort, cut the rope. Respect isn't negotiated, it's enforced. Raise your standards in your relationships. If a woman constantly challenges your masculinity, tests your boundaries, or withholds respect, you walk, not with drama, not with anger, but with clarity. Because your peace isn't worth trading for a warm body. Raise your standards in your own behavior. Stop giving 80% and calling it effort. Stop saying, "I'll start tomorrow," when you had every opportunity today. Stop chasing comfort. Raise the bar so high that every version of you that used to settle would tremble at the life you're building now. And yes, people will call you extreme. They'll say you've changed. Let them, because the life you want doesn't live in compromise. It lives in the edge where comfort ends and discipline begins. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to become undeniable to the few who recognize greatness. Set your bar so high that only the aligned can reach you. That's how kings are made, not by lowering their crown, but by requiring others to rise. Every man watching this knows the pain of being dismissed, disrespected, forgotten. You've been the one who gave your best, only to be seen as replaceable. You've been the man who stayed loyal and watched someone else get chosen. You've stayed silent through disrespect, buried your ambition under obligations, and smiled while the world overlooked your struggle. And the worst part? You've been told it's your fault, that you weren't enough, that if you just tried harder, loved harder, waited longer, things would change. But you're done waiting. Because now you know the truth, and more importantly, you know the way out. That's why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, the most powerful, direct, no-nonsense guide ever written for men navigating modern relationships and self-respect. This isn't therapy talk. It's not motivational fluff. It's a weapon, forged in truth, precision, and tested strategies to transform how you live, how you love, and how you're valued. Inside, you'll get step-by-step systems on how to command respect in any relationship, protect your peace without guilt, and walk as the man who is no longer available for disrespect, confusion, or mediocrity. If you've ever felt lost in today's society, where men are punished for being masculine, where good intentions are twisted, where strength is seen as a threat, this blueprint will become your armor. It's dropping very soon, and when it does, it won't just change your relationship, it will change your identity. But here's the catch. This book won't be available for long. We will be capping the number of sales to ensure this knowledge doesn't become diluted, misused, or commercialized. Because this isn't for everyone. It's for the men who are ready, the ones who are truly committed to transforming their lives from the inside out. Once we reach our limit, it's gone. No reopenings, no second chances. So if you're serious about reclaiming your power, if you're tired of being an option and ready to become a luxury, if you're done begging for what you were born to command, comment Blueprint if you're ready and want me to send you the ebook the moment it drops. Like the video, share it with a man who needs this, and subscribe to the channel, because the more you support this mission, the more we spread these truths to men who need them most.